Good day, good day, good day, good day. The Grump just got through grilling, so my hair don't look all that great, but that's all right. I was not going to do this show this year, but I have had several people who know me outside of these videos who's like, Grumpy, you haven't done the Rock Hall show. You always do the Rock Hall inductees. If not that same day, the next day, and because I used to do it the day of, but now they get introduced on American Idol, and I hate that. But anyway, but I wasn't going to do it because sometimes I think the Rock Hall is kind of redundant. I don't like who's in. I don't have much of a beef this year. So I'm going to go through this as quickly as I can so you don't get bored. But I hope you stay for the whole show because you're going to find out who's what. All right, the first thing is the Ahmet Erdogan Award. Now that goes to people who aren't performers. For example, Don Kirshner got it for Don Kirshner's rock concert. Bert Sugarman got it a few years ago because he did the midnight special. This year, Ed Sullivan gets it. Now Ed Sullivan was big in the 50s and 60s. He finally stopped doing his Sunday night variety show in about 1972. Why is he in there? Because he introduced so many people to up and coming rock stars. Elvis Presley, the Beatles, the Doors, James Brown, the Rolling Stones. He did the Platters, Jackie Wilson, Supremes, Jackson 5. Pretty much, if you made it to Ed Sullivan that week, you were going to be a big hit. Kind of equivalent to Saturday Night Live now. If you make it to Saturday Night Live, you're pretty big, or they thinking you're going to be big. So that means Lorne Michaels eventually might get in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the Ahmet Erdogan Award. Okay, now, after that, you have the musical influences. I've said before that if you get in for musical influence, you're probably not going to get the votes to be in as a performer. Usually you're a cool guy. You're not going to get the performer votes. We think you should be in because you're a nice guy, kind of like Jimmy Buffett last year. He was never going to get in for a performer, but people like him, so they put him in for musical influence. LL Cool J was the same way. Ringo Starr was that way. He was never going to get put in as a performer, but doggone, Ringo Starr needs to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This year you got Celia Cruz. She was a Latin artist. She was the sound of freedom for post-Cuban revolution. After Fidel Castro took over Cuba, she migrated to the United States and did protest songs against the communist rule in there. She was making hits, but when she teamed up with Tito Puentes, it's when she got real big, and then Johnny Pacheco. Now, if you don't know her, it's okay. A lot of y'all don't follow Hispanic music, Latin American music, but she was huge. The next person who I'm not familiar with is Fela Kuti, who's spoke out against the injustices in West African music, especially in Nigeria. My good friend Tim Bryant from the Tim and Jim show is ecstatic that Fela's in there. Tim's a little bit more well. Tim is more knowledgeable about world music than I am. His songs were "Water Get No Enemy," "Expensive," "Beasts of No Nation," and he was influenced by James Brown, Miles Davis in Parliament. His influence has influenced other folks who goes in, like Nora Jones, who uses jazz music into her stuff. And she's in the Rock Hall. Okay. The next person for musical influence, MC Light. She's a hip hop pioneer. She was the first African American woman who had her first. She's a rap artist. First solo album as a rap artist. Woman. First woman rap artist who got a gold single and a Grammy nomination. Who all she influenced? Queen Latifah, Missy Elliott, and Lauryn Hill. Without her, you don't get those artists. The next musical influence, speaking of Latifah, is Latifah Hill. Queen Latifah. She's an original hip hop superstar. And now you know her more for her acting, kind of like Ice Cube, who was a massive hip hop artist with NWA and his own solo albums. His death certificate was in my top 10. Queen Latifah, big rap artist. Oh, and the Grump likes plus size women. Woo! She was something when she first started. She don't play on my team though. She was a big influence for Lizzo, and what I like about Lizzo, she ain't got no plus size girls in her band. Came from Queen Latifah. All right, I can't fault her being in the Rock Hall. She was never going to get in musically as a performer, but she should be there. Now, the next musical influence person, I am so happy he's in. Like last year, I was so happy that Nicky Hopkins got in. Graham Parsons, country rock artist. He blended country, soul, gospel, and rock into one thing. He was in not only as a solo artist, he worked with the Byrds. He helped do the Flying Burrito Brothers. His song $1,000 Wedding is one of my top 5 songs of all time. Unfortunately, he died at 26. Them doggone drugs, man, they will mess you up severely. And it did him. He influenced Emmylou Harris, Tom Petty, and then in the early 80s, there was this big Angry Young Men with Elvis Costello, Graham Parsons, John Hyatt, Ry Cooder, Crenshaw. He influenced all those guys. I'm so happy Graham Parsons is in the Hall of Fame. Now, the next group is the musical excellence folks. These people are mainly your producers and songwriters of music. Linda Creed, she helped write Betcha by Golly Row by the Delphonics. Then she started working with the Stylistics. You Make Me Feel Brand New. Oh my gosh. And then she wrote a song that wasn't big when it happened. After she died, it became huge. Whitney Houston made a song called The Greatest Love of All. Oh, I'm sorry Linda wasn't alive with it because she'd be rich, 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 rich. She influenced Mary J. Mary J. Blige, Michael Jackson, and Prince. You can influence them people. You are something huge. Arif Mardin. This guy was a producer. 4 decades he produced stuff. Aretha Franklin's album, I Ain't Never Loved a Man the Way That I Love You, with respect. That right there should get you in. He did Hall and Oates with Sarah Smile, The Culture Club, Chaka Khan, Nora Jones, and he produced Dusty from Memphis, one of the hottest albums of the 60s of all time. Arif Mardin, Musical Excellence Award. Rick Rubin, I'm glad he's in it while he's still alive. He goes for musical excellence. Probably the most important producer of the 20th century. And he was huge in the 1980s as well when he did the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He made Deaf American record label with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He produced the Beastie Boys, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Adele, Run DMC, LM Cool J. And then in the 90s, he resurrected Johnny Cash. All of a sudden, if you're musical and you're knowledgeable, you appreciate Johnny Cash. He reintroduced Johnny Cash, and everybody all of a sudden, oh, Johnny Cash is great. Yes, he's always been great. But that first album, just him and the guitar, and then he started making more albums. They were all phenomenal. He also did Neil Diamond's album. Tim, if I'm wrong, let me know. Now the next guy, the final guy for the for the Excellence Award is Jimmy Miller. All right, he produced the Spencer Davis Group in Traffic. Okay, that's good. But 1968 to 1973, he hooked up with the Stones, and he produced Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed, Sticky Fingers, Exile on Main Street. That right there puts you in the musical excellence, rock and roll hall of fame when you can do those albums. Without him, we don't have Honky Tonk Woman, Jumpin' Jack Flash, Gimme Shelter. You can't always get what you want. And Paint It Black. You don't get those songs without Jimmy Miller producing that. Without him, the Stones are great anyway, but they wouldn't have been as great without those 1, 2, 3, 5 albums that he produced. Mm. All right. So now, now we're getting into the performers section of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and this is it. I don't want to mention names about who said Grumpy. Where's the Rock Hall? Grumpy, you're not doing the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Where's it at? Where's it at? We're waiting. We don't know all these people. Even Jude's like, Dad, we got to get your take on these folks. I don't know some of these people. And I'm going to be honest. I did not know Celia Cruz, and I didn't know Fela as well. But I knew all these folks. Okay. Now, last year or the year before, I said, are you kidding me? This person got in. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I'm not going to fault any of these folks. One of them, I was like, are you sure? But, hey. Wu Tang Clan, a hip hop group collaborative. A group of rappers had Ghostface Killers in there, Old Dirty, uh, RZA, RZA, I guess. I don't know. GZA. Anyway, I'm glad they're in. Now, my Tim Bryant from the Tim and Jim show, he can tell you all about them. That's one thing we kind of miss about the Tim and Jim shows, our Rock and Roll Hall of Fame shows. Those were big. Luther Vandross. That voice could get girls going. You play them, they called them screw tapes. You take your girl to your place, put on Luther Vandross. Woo-wee! You might get lucky. His songs, Here and Now, was at Barry Decker's wedding. A good friend of mine who's no longer with us, God rest his soul. He redid Superstar. Amel doing Superstar. Don't you remember you told me you love me, baby? I was like, oh, I've always wanted to do that as a solo artist. Luther beat me, and he got more people who will listen. But the song that makes even the Grump cry, Dance with My Father. Oh, about, his father who's passed. I couldn't keep a dry eye when I heard that. So, Luther Vandross, he's so cool. Even in Barbershop 2, a guy wanted to talk about Luther, but no, don't talk about Luther. So, I'm glad you're in there. Here's the one I was like, are y'all sure about this? Sade. Her name is spelled S-A-D-E. Sade. I can see Sade, but they said, no, it's Sade. I don't see no H in there. I don't see no R. They said it's French. Well, the French need to learn how to spell. Sade. Sweetest Taboo. Smooth Operator. Your Love is King. And I'll be honest, those songs are good. I don't know she should be in the Rock Hall. She used jazz, soul, and R&B, but like I have said, a lot of people confuse Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with hard rock, heavy metal. Rock and roll, like I said, I told, last year I explained, it's rock and roll. The roll covers everything. So, Sade is in there. I'm not going to what's the word? Begrudge her this. Now, Oasis. They're that group, kind of like Tom Petty went. Are y'all sure Tom should be in there? Oh, he's got his place. He's cool. Or Dave Matthews. I'm like, Dave Matthews should be. Oh, he's all right. He's cool. Now Oasis is like that rock and roll for a new generation. He started coming into the '90s, so and that's what I'm going to start seeing. A lot of people, I'm like, are we sure they're there? And a few years ago, when I was doing a Tim and Jim show, there were some people like, oh, the Killers are going to be in there eventually. I'm like, oh shoot, oh man, electricity's wanting to go out. You hear the thunder. We're down in Harris County in Houston, Harris County in Texas, around Houston. So I don't mind Oasis. I guess they're bigger than I thought. I just don't listen to popular music. I haven't listened since the '90s. If they're there, they're there. Liam and Noel Gallagher, they fight a lot. Brothers do that. Okay. Iron Maiden, the blueprint for heavy metal. They're not going to be there. They always said they wouldn't be there. They wouldn't accept it if they got inducted. Well, they have accepted being in there, kind of like Dolly a couple of years ago. Okay, we're in there. All right, cool. But we're not going to be there. We're on tour. Good for you. You're a working band. You're going to do your tour in Australia. They're heavy metal. They are what all these people, it's not rock and roll. They're rock and roll. Heavy metal like Metallica. They're heavy metal. Now, not heavy metal like in the '80s, like John Bon Jovi and Whitehead and Whitesnake and all them folks with that big hair, the big hair bands. This is true rock and roll, true heavy metal. In the '80s, you like music? Yeah, I like music. You know, riding with a female. What do you like? I like rock and roll. Puts in Def Leppard. And I'm like, okay, I guess they're rock. But then it was all these, yeah, it might have been rock and roll to her. It wasn't heavy metal, but that's what people were thinking rock and roll was at the time. Um, I wasn't into it, but that's okay. How many more I got? 3 more. Okay. Billy Idol. Last year was his first year to be nominated. I'm like, Billy? Are you sure? I don't know. But then I went on Apple Music for his essentials and I started reading his stuff, White Wedding, Hot in the City, Eyes Without a Face, Flesh for Fantasy, Money, Money. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to mind if he gets in there. He's a pretty good artist. He's got some good stuff. So it's like, I thought he would get in last year. He didn't. He gets in this year, second year of eligibility. Billy, my favorite song by you is it's Hot in the City. Hot in the, yeah. I got that on a heavy play rotation in my Apple Music card. Okay. I got 2 more, and I'm going to do one and then the last one. I hope you stay with me. The next one, I think it was last year, I was reading an article. And the guy said, all right, if you're on top of the game for more than a year or 2, you get to be in. And it's like, okay, I can say, okay, with that in mind, I can see why Madonna's in there. It's not rock and roll, but she was at the top for a couple of years. Last year we got in Cyndi Lauper, who was at the top for a year. So I'm like, this dude was at the top in the mid '80s, and my good friend, one of my dearest friends, Bruce Smith, said he reminds me of Elton John in the '70s. I said from '72 to about '76, Elton was constantly on the radio, constantly on the top of the charts. This guy was the same way. I'm not going to say I was a huge fan, but Phil Collins was at the top of the charts for I don't know how many years. in the mid '80s. I was a couple of girls that I went out with. It's like, what do you think about music? She goes, well, I don't know as much as you do, but I really like Phil Collins. I'm like, okay. I liked him in Genesis up until the Genesis album. Then Genesis and Phil Collins, it kind of was like interchangeable, you know. So I stopped really digging Genesis then. But Phil was all right. I didn't like When I'm Feeling Blue. Oh, yeah. When I'm Feeling Blue was Groovy Kind of Love. It was like, so, but I got to admit, from about '84 to about '88, he was always at the top of the charts. So I'm not going to begrudge it because he was top. And hey, Phil, I'm sorry you're not healthy. Hope you get better soon. Now, the last person, for the last 10 years, I have been harping on this group to get in. One of my dearest friends ever, Wesley Cowan, loved this band. And then the next one as well, Joy Division. Okay? They're going Joy Division slash New Order. I'm so happy they're finally in. I thought eventually they would get in for musical influence, but I'm so happy they got in as performers. They were post punk pioneers who transformed into electric dance floor pioneers. Okay. New Order. I've gone over this before, so I'll recap it right quick. My friend Wesley loved this thing they called underground music. Today we call it indie music. Okay? Uh, and he loved Joy Division. Now, they had two albums, Pleasure the Principle and Closer. And then they had some singles. And the compilation album was called Substance. I said, Wesley, go to Hastings, look at Substance. Should I get it? He goes, run when you get off work and get that. Love Will Tear Us Apart Again. Mm. And then Atmospheres is, I think, one of the most beautiful songs ever written. Unfortunately, as Joy Division, the lead singer, songwriter, Ian Curtis, committed suicide. And the three left decided we got to keep going. And they formed the band New Order. So those three kept going and they added Jillian to be in with them. Okay? So they became New Order. But they changed instead of post-punk, underground, it was more dance floor. So Binky Benoit was like, oh my God, they're different. And of course they're different. They're a different band. They influenced Joy Division, influenced U2, Nine Inch Nails, The Killers, and Churches. New World Order was influenced by Giorgio Moroder and Kraftwerk. And I'm so happy they got in as well. That is the Rock Hall recap of 2026. I hope you stayed with us. And look, the people that didn't get in excess. People and New Edition didn't get in. Okay. New Edition gets in when New Kids on the Block gets in. In excess, they weren't at the top, but they were around. Kind of like Billy Idol. Never on top, but he was always around. So In excess might get in the next few years because, let's face it, the pickings are getting mighty slim. Oh, there's people that can still go in. Three Dog Night should be in. But with Joy Division, I don't really have much to complain about. I would like to see Mata Hoppel get in. Beyond that, I don't know. Okay? So, hey, I'm glad you stuck around. I hope you enjoyed it. All you guys can get off my back. I did the show. All right. I'm gonna do it next year too. And for nothing else, the only one I'm like scratching my head is Sade. But hey, if she's there, she's there. Okay. Well, last year I was mad about 5 or 6 of them. I'm glad you stayed with us. I want you all to be you all. Shoot, who you gonna be?
I'm gonna be me.
I'm gonna be me, and I hope y'all come back. We're gonna do Olivia Rodrigo single, and you too put out another EP that's coming up real soon. Stick with us. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.